Hi, and welcome back to some more sports psychology insights with David Charlton. Today is going to be part three. So, in the last 2 weeks, I've blogged and I've recorded a video about sport and its interaction with your personality. We focused on Peter Clough's 4Cs model of mental toughness in the previous two posts and videos. Today, I'm going to look at four other aspects of personality and the interaction with sport. And sometimes the interaction is a positive thing, sometimes not so. Firstly, what we're going to do is we're going to look at task and social leadership. So, task leadership essentially would be you'd be more of a figures person, a numbers person. So, if you're a runner, you'd be interested in Strava. If you're and I suppose these days in any sport, there's lots of statistics there. You might have a big interest in statistics, whereas the social leader would be more interested in people and they'd potentially worry about what people think of them. They'd be, if they played in a team sport, they'd be like really interested in trying to motivate others, etc. That's how it would pan out. So if you think about it, individual sports, like we'll go golf that I play. If you look at endurance sports as well, marathon running, triathlon, those type of sports, that potentially can appeal to maybe the more task orientated person in that they're able to be single-minded and focus, and they're not going to be worried when they play their sport about others so much, possibly. That doesn't necessarily happen, though. Then if we look at team sports, obviously the social side is very different. All the dynamics come into it, people pleasing and trying to motivate each other, criticism, all those factors have an impact. Now, if you've got a more of a task leadership style as opposed to a social leadership style, it might well be, if you're in a team sport, that you don't get too fazed by the team dynamic side of things. It's certainly something to think about. It's quite complex, but there is certainly an interaction there with the type of sport that you play, and some food for thought for yourself if you think about your behaviors and your preferences in your sports. Then we have autonomy versus a need for approval from others. And there's a link to, I suppose, to what we've talked about there with social leadership. Essentially, if we think about autonomy, and if we think about this whole thing for need for approval, certainly, need for approval can have a big impact on your mindset. It can distract you, to say the least. You can be worrying about other people. You can have in place lots of expectations on others, which essentially aren't true. So you're mind reading. I'm thinking about players and coaches, but you've got spectators into the mix as well, and parents. These do influence the way you play your game, and again, depending on the sport that you play in, the actual interaction that you do have with other people, this plays a part. And then if we look also at routine versus a more flexible personality, some sports are more changeable than others. So we'll go with darts, archery, golf, where things are static. Tennis with serving as well. Now, you can organize and really think in detail about a pre-performance routine to be able to help you, to say the least. You can be a lot more comfortable when you are under pressure, if you like. Now, if you look at more flexible and changeable sports, so we'll go with team sports, football, rugby, for argument's sake, pitches change, tactics, opponents, the size of opponents, the attitude, the physicality side of things, all those sort of things change. So there's more factors outside of your control. And when it comes down to pre-performance routines, it's not as straightforward as hitting a golf ball, which is obviously a static thing on a tee or on the ground. The other thing, I suppose, when we think about routines too and the flexibility side, sometimes in team sports, quite often, there's a group warm-up at this very start, but the individual isn't catered for. And this can have an impact and make some people more anxious. It can have an impact over a period of time if you've been playing the sport for a number of years on the way you go about things. And sometimes helpful, sometimes not so much. So a bit of food for thought for you. And lastly, what we're going to look at is performing under pressure. Certainly transferring your skills from practice to competitive events, tournaments, races, matches. This is something else that sport brings to you, to say the least. It tests you. It's very much like when you're in education, when you've got an exam. And obviously the Monday to Friday, for months and months and years, you're training for that exam, essentially. And if we think about performing in a match or a race or a tournament, you've got to manage your own thoughts, your own emotions. You've got your body language. Your timing changes as well. So be that you might speed up, you might slow down. And that might well be just in your walk, or it could well be actually in your decision making as well, and your striking of the ball, that sort of thing. There's certainly lots of things to factor in when we're talking about performing under pressure. Ultimately, the key is self-awareness. And what I would advocate for yourself, you the viewer, is to think about a critical friend, someone who can draw to you some of the habits and behaviors that you get drawn into, who can think about your personality in some of these areas we've talked about today and in the previous blog and video, and how that affects the way you go about your business. Ensure that this critical friend also is a supporter, and they're going to try and big you up and encourage you. The other thing that sport can bring to you is reflection, which I've got to say a lot of athletes and coaches struggle with, because they just want to be doing. They want to be on the pitch, the court, or in the gym or something like that. They don't want to sit back and think too much. Often their thoughts are actually, they're not reflecting, they're ruminating. So they're worrying and they're thinking about lots of things. Reflection is very different. And sport can really teach you this. I'm going to throw into the mix as well the value of working with someone like myself, a sports psychologist. We can teach you, or certainly draw to your awareness by our questions, by following evidence-based practice, various different principles. We can really help you understand yourself better. We can help you really dig deep and overcome a lot of fears that you're not even aware of. And this whole business about reflecting, we can help you reflect a lot better as well on your performances, so you don't keep making the same mistakes time after time, which a lot of people do. Hope you've enjoyed this short video. In the past, I've mentioned that I was going to do 3 videos, or well, a blog and 2 videos. I've actually come to the realization that sport teaches you an awful lot more. So I'm going to give you a bonus episode next week where we're going to touch on other things that I notice in my work. And yeah, there's definitely going to be some helpful little insights there for you. Until next time, have a great day or a great week. Goodbye.